Are Britain's pubs the last place you can find love without a dating app? Non-Brit Antonia Bentel wrote a brilliant story for The Fence about looking for love in the pub, and she read it for us at our independent magazine night at St Bride's.
I'm Antonia Bentel. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm going to be reading a piece that I wrote for The Fence. It was published this past October. It's called Lust Orders, and it's a dispatch on how London's pubs have become the city's last theatres of desire. Or in other words, if you don't know what that means, it's about how certain Londoners' search for desire, lust, or true love has left the dating apps and has gone to the boozer. And just to flag, I understand that I have an American accent. An American talking about pubs in England, a little bit strange, but bear with me, thank you. Anyway, here's my piece. Thursday, 7 o'clock, Hackney. The Spurstowe Arms by London Fields is already wedged. Pints of Guinness settle in neat little parliaments. The glasswasher's cycle ticks like a metronome. A bartender chalks a menu. Frozen margaritas, £10. Tomato anchovy pizza, £16. Hot honey, plus £1, 2-hour wait. And hangs it above a pile of lime wedges sweating in a plastic tray. Car seat headrests, It's Only Sex is playing, though you'd be hard-pressed to hear it over the mustachioed man in the suede jacket at the far end of the bar, who is currently declaring that the Gallagher brothers' recently buried hatchet could, quote, yet rescue the nation. But I haven't come to the Spurstowe for his Britpop promulgation, or the pizza with its £1 hot honey drizzle, or even for the Guinness, however reputable the pour. No, what I've come for is harder to admit, but easy enough to see. The hope that crossing 2 postcodes, sometimes 40 minutes on the overground, sometimes a trudge across town in the rain, might yield a number, a kiss, perhaps something more. It's astonishing what distances we will endure for the vague prospect of romance, miles we'd hesitate to cross for birthdays, housewarmings, or the slow death of a friendship. Recently, London's other theatres of desire have lost their glamour, their script stale and spotlights unforgiving. Clubs have become overpriced, strobe-lit school discos. The dating apps have reduced courtship to a form-filing exercise, each prompt triter than the last. Even respectable hobbies like running, ceramics, sea swimming have been conscripted into shyer yet sluttier forms of speed dating. The pub, by contrast, still trades in plausible deniability, the illusion that you're only here for a drink, not for the hunt. Unlike clubs or apps, you can insist that you stumbled into intimacy by accident. The whole institution is built on this social sleight of hand, an insistence that you're, quote, not looking, even when you very much are. A pint is no longer just a straightforward route to drunkenness. It's a prop, an alibi, the minimum ticket price for standing in a heaving, sticky room where something, or rather someone, might happen. And that possibility is all the more charged because, by design, pubs are conservative social spaces. You're meant to keep your friends, stick to your drinks, avoid strangers' eyes. The codes don't encourage mingling, yet so many still go half hoping for a break in them. This is what the pub has become for a certain kind of Londoner, of course. Not the sticky, carpeted local pub of yore with their tea towel swabbed pint glasses and flickering slot machines in the corner, but a chosen local. One that offers you the chance of a kiss, a number exchanged, or, at the very least, a love story so good it becomes pub lore. Me, I wouldn't say I'm quote-unquote looking for love if that's what you're after, says Tom, a ridiculously tall 30-something musician with a plastic cup of lager at Peckham Arches, the beer garden under the overground tracks. But I guess I do keep showing up because something might happen. Could meet the love of my life, or, more accurate, actually, someone else who I'd be delighted to let ruin it. He pauses. But if it doesn't, or I don't, at least the pints are cheap. And I don't mind the long tube ride back to Canonbury. I do my best thinking on the Windrush. He says this like it's nothing, but Canonbury to Peckham is 40 minutes on the tube. A serious commitment for a man who swears he isn't, quote, looking for love. Indifference, I have found, does not usually travel that far south in London. Later that week, outside the Prince George in Dalston, Talia, a 28-year-old production assistant, holds a cigarette. She doesn't seem especially committed to smoking. She and her friend, Quiva, 29, a digital marketing executive, tell me they deleted all dating apps, both Hinge and Raya, last month. Now we just come here instead, Talia says. Same odds, fewer opportunities to have our heads done in. We've gotten lucky as standing at this very spot, actually. Quiva nods enthusiastically before cutting in, and everyone knows the smoker section is where the hotties live. When I asked how they've, quote, gotten lucky, Quiva waggles her eyebrows. Well, Tal's met a few loves of her night here, if you know what I mean. Talia swats her arm. Ah, Quiv, behave. You knew that one fella from school and introduced me. She takes another pain drag of her cigarette, and Quiva cranes her neck, scanning the pavement. Then she turns back to me. I'm trying to find you a smoking hottie for you right now, because you should never let yourself shag anyone from those fucking apps again. These kinds of little disavowals have become the shared patter of London's pubgoers. Nobody wants to confess they're lonely, looking for love, or are on the pull. Far too vulnerable. So they deliver lines about hotties, loves of the night, and lovers who will ruin their life, letting the scene play out. And each pub, it seems, offers a stage on which to perform it. At the Pelican, every night opens with the same act: a chance encounter, a love at second sighting, a dress rehearsal for romance. Instead of tickets, the Notting Hill pub sells the promise of a first date by the pint. Strangers flirt on a Thursday, then return the next week under the guise of a budding romance forged in its oak-paneled rooms. And of course they do. The place glows with candlelight, flattering, very forgiving, and the wine list is just long enough to keep you lingering till close. This is the only place I'd risk a first date, one woman called Flossie tells me, because you don't ever have to call it a date. Usually, I've already met the guys I've been out with here. We meet, we chat, they ask for my number, and a week later we're back in the same spot pretending it's something new. You're practically forced into dating someone here if you come often enough. At the next table, I ask a man in an Oxford shirt if he and the woman beside him are on a date, or if they've just met tonight at the Pelican. He shakes his head. They're just, quote, old mates from uni. When he ducks to the loo, she leans over to clarify. We are old mates, she says, but we hadn't spoken in yonks until we bumped into each other last week here at the Pelly. Were they on a date? She pauses and plucks an olive from the garnish of a martini before admitting they'll probably shag later. Not out of romance or even nostalgia, but precedent. I mean, we did it once in like Val Thorens or something our first year, she tells me. That's the Pelican specialty, turning coincidence into courtship and, naturally, calling it anything but a date. Across town, the Faltering Fullback in Finsbury Park doesn't bother with candlelight or wine lists. It's built serendipity into its very bones. The pub's stacked wooden decks and switchback staircase is the perfect stage for strangers to get lost, bump bodies, and exchange numbers. It's the only place where getting lost gets you flirting, says Lucas, if I can be honest, and editorialize, a rather nerdy civil servant in his 30s. His friend Frank rolls his eyes. Don't listen to him. He's only saying that because he bumped into the same fit girl 3 times and she finally gave him her number. If the Pelican and the Faltering Fullback forces people together, then the Gowlet Arms in Peckham turns it into a spectacle and insists you watch. Recognition is the currency here. Posh boys pretending not to be posh, many of them actors, half flirting, half auditioning, expecting to be remembered. I wouldn't really call myself an actor, says a shaggy-haired actor I know named Rory, 29, swirling the dregs of his pint like it's whiskey. I mean, yeah, I've done a few things, but right now I'm mostly storytelling, writing. He lets the word hang, unfinished but heavy, leading me to wonder if he means he's writing a script, a novel, or, most likely, a Substack essay no one asked for. Desire becomes dramaturgy here. Everyone waiting to be cast, pint as prop, hoping their monologue lands. The old Queen's Head in Islington, by contrast, runs on denial as folklore. Paul Mescal's brief patronage during his run as Stanley Kowalski at the Almeida Theatre has become almost mythic. Everyone swears they smoked with him, drank with him, or shagged him, albeit no 2 versions ever match. Though Streetcar wrapped years ago, nobody admits they still go in the hopes of finding their own Paul. Even so, that spirit lingers. Oh, we're not quite together, says a couple sharing both a chair and a packet of Scampi fries. We've quite literally just met tonight, but we are nostalgically compatible. We've definitely met in a past life. Around the corner, Gadette, technically a wine bar, caters to people pretending they're over it. We'd stay out if we could meet someone, but we'll probably be pushing off soon. One pair of friends tell me immediately after ordering their second bottle of wine. Everyone's always on the hunt, but somehow never shooting their shot, they say. The crowd at the Toucan in Soho is somehow even blunter, though far less cynical. The evening I went, it was a Guinness bunker packed with bawdy Americans in rugby shirts. Easiest place in London to get laid, bellowed a graduate student from Chicago. His friends referred to him as Beef. He was shouting to be heard over the synth beats of Supertramp's Goodbye Stranger. Minutes later, I see him kissing a woman who may or may not have been from London. Whether Beef managed to get laid, I will never know. Of course, Londoners aren't really expecting the love of their life at the Faltering Fullback, or even someone worth a first date at the Pelican. Nobody, it seems, wants to admit they're at the pub to pull. But in a city like London, atomized, unaffordable, permanently mediocre that treat intimacy like admin, the pub is the last working theater of desire. There is no strategy, only performance. Everyone takes up their roles, searching a room with 1,000-yard stares, waiting for a cue that rarely comes. Yet still, week after week, the cast of London's horniest, most lovelorn pub-goers return, pints in hand, parts half learned, rehearsing for the night when it finally might. Thank you.